Welcome to episode 203 of Level Up, 60 minutes of live Q&A where your questions drive the show. My name is Stephan Brendel, and on behalf of APMG, I'm your host today. If you're watching on YouTube, please do give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. It is free and helps others to find our content. A great option for yourself is to join a community and sign up for a personalized weekly update. Just follow the link below. My colleague Janice is in the social chat for you, so please let her know your name and the city from where you're joining. She will post a link to vote up the questions that you would most like answered, and of course for you to add your own. If your question is selected, your name will appear in the credits at the end of the show, so get yours in early and stay with us to see that happen. How to become a change manager is like becoming a wizard of workplace transitions, and how to develop the charisma to charm office skeptics to gain less resistance. It is a journey that combines education, experience, and continuous improvement in your skills. And it is a rewarding field that allows you to make a positive impact on organizations and their staff by facilitating successful transitions during times of change. Sounds interesting? Well, then let's get started and meet our expert panel from around the globe for today. Joining from Australia is Malini Jayaganesh, a highly experienced business relationship manager who specializes in nurturing high-performing BRMs and teams. With a background in business analysis, she's regularly invited to deliver keynotes and presentations at professional and academic forums in Australia, the US, the United Kingdom, and India. Welcome to the panel, Malini.
Thank you, Stephan, and a big hello to my fellow panelists and our viewers from around the world. It's just past 7 p.m. in Melbourne, and I can't wait for an hour full of questions about change management.
Thanks, Malini. Sure we will get there. Shola Issac is the Executive Director at Training Creatively in the UK, where he delivers a wide range of project and program management trainings for clients across industry. He has extensive experience in delivering value to his clients and has facilitated many training courses worldwide. Welcome, Shola.
Thank you very much. I look forward to this session. Change is a permanent thing, and managing change is really effective when dealing with people. This is a topic that is close to my heart, and I look forward to a really useful discussion.
All right, thanks, Shola. Ron Leeman is the founder of the Highway of Change, where he works to share his experience in a down-to-earth, practical format others can really relate to. An award-winning contributor to the HR Development Congress, Ron is also a regular contributor here on Level Up. Hello to Thailand and welcome, Ron.
Hello, I'm feeling fired up today for some reason. I'm really ready for the show. So I'm going to start by asking you a question. Hello, is it me you're looking for? Yes, I'm here, ready to ask your questions.
All right, you don't need to sing, Ron. Adrian Pyne is both Director of Consulting and an author of the book Agile Beyond IT, where he champions the adoption of agility across organizations. With a background in both private and public sectors, Adrian invests in coaching and upskilling others. He's joining us from the UK today. Welcome, Adrian.
Thank you very much, Stephan. How do I follow Ron? Thanks very much. Okay, it's great. I mean, I've been involved in business transformations now, best part of 30 years. So it's going to be interesting to see what my fellow panelists on this global and truly diverse panel say today in response to audience questions. Well, going to be fun.
Yeah, what a great atmosphere here on the panel today. Completing our panel and joining us from Phoenix, Arizona is Mart, Rovers, a trainer, coach, consultant, and the president of INTERPROM. Mart specializes in business relationship management, service management, information security management, and project and change management. Welcome, Mart.
Stephan, thank you so much. And APMG, thank you so much for having me again. It's great to be at such distinguished panel. And these questions that have come in, they will definitely make this really, really educational. To start us off, as usual, I have a quote prepared for you that is from Alan Watts, who once said, "The only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance." So, Stephan, let's start dancing.
The dance. Right, thank you. All our panelists obviously are looking forward to sharing their experience with you and answering your questions. And to get this done right, I also want to introduce our question master, Charlotte Miller, APMG's Business Development Manager for the UK and Ireland. Welcome, Charlotte, and may we have a first question, please?
You may, and look at that picture of Lexi on the screen. First question for today is Jordan. What personal attributes are required to become an effective change manager?
Oh, Ron couldn't even wait for you to read that question, Charlotte. So let's start with Ron and then followed by Malini.
How long have you got, Jordan? Use the whole show. Attributes, lots and lots of attributes. I think the main one for me is to be people orientated, because change is all about people. There's nothing different. It's not about processes, it's not about technology, it's about people. So people orientated. You need to be a good communicator. You need to have some level of leadership skills, because basically what you're doing is you're leading the change. Okay. Be a good listener. Interpersonal skills, because what you're doing is you're engaging with many stakeholders over the period of the project. You need to be empathetic. You need to be calm and collected when you deal with the resistors. And finally, I think you need to have a bit of charisma. Yeah, that's me, done.
All right, are you describing a hero? Right, thanks for that. Let's hear from Malini.
I think Ron's a very hard act to follow, and I concur with everything that he said. I would have said empathy would be my number one personal attribute. What I'd look for in a good change manager, and I also think you need to have grit, because change management is not easy. You have to be prepared for resistance, and you have to, like Ron said, you have to maintain your calm, but you also need to stay the course and inspire and bring along people who don't necessarily want to come along on this journey, right? So it takes a lot of personal resilience. I think that is something that you need to cultivate as well.
All right, personal resilience. Yeah, you're right. Mart, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, empathy indeed was also my number one favorite. I'd like to add to be authentic, transparent, be able to build trust. Means that also you need to be honest, show compassion, be confident. I think these are all traits that would fit the change manager profile.
All right, thanks, Mart. And then let's hear from Adrian.
And I was just going to say, I think everything I was going to say has been said so far. So I'm just going to leave it at that, because I can't really add to I was going to talk about resilience and everything. Perhaps I will just mention, if anyone wants to do change management, it's not a bad idea to read The Prince by Machiavelli.
Okay, yeah. Well, it would be interesting how you can measure if you have reached, or if you have actually all these attributes, and how much of a 30 to 60 degree feedback might be appropriate or not. I mean, I think that's something. But let's hear from Shola next.
Yes, my co-panelists have said it all. What I want to emphasize, though, is that's clarity on the benefits, that the change will deliver. So the change manager should be part of the change leaders, championing the change and being a great role model for the change as well, clarifying the benefits that the change will be. And that will, of course, come through communication, as stated by my fellow panelists. Thanks.
Thanks, Shola. Thanks, panel. And we just jump into the next question, Charlotte, please.
Thanks, Stephan. Our next question for this morning is from one of our panelists, Ron. So Ron asks in capital letters, why has change management suddenly become, being called human-centric when it should have always been about people?
That's something. And Ron, I will you will go last. I will first have Adrian and then Malini. Thanks. Adrian, please.
Well, I think this follows really superbly from the previous question. And clearly most of the attributes that came out in the previous question were sort of human ones. And the simple answer to the question is yes, the change management role has always been about people. But we actually mustn't forget that actually managing change and organizational transformation is a combination of people, process, and technology aspects, all of which have to be integrated. So the change manager is clearly dealing with the people aspects, but they've also got to ensure that there's an integration between all the other aspects of that change, any process changes, any technology changes as well. And anyone involved in digitalization in an organization will know exactly what I mean by that, because all those three dimensions are absolutely involved.
All right, thanks, Adrian. Well, I always thought that human-centric actually touches down on the individual, and people is just the wider scope of people. But let's hear from Malini.
I think change management, I agree with Ron. It should have always been about people. But what I've seen in many organizations is that, the people aspect is often the bit that gets overlooked, and it becomes all about the solution or the product or the service that we are rolling out. And change management is often de-scoped. It's one of those things that for a long time, it was one of those things that was considered a nice to have. And when they did bring on a change manager, it would usually be at the last minute, and then it's just to deliver some training or to offer some, to send out some communications. What we're seeing now is the trend is a greater recognition that we need to actually enroll people into the change quite early on. And I think that's kind of why there's more focus now on this human centricity of the change rather than the products and services that we might be delivering as part of that change. And we have other disciplines that also have the prefix of human centric, such as design thinking or service design. It's often referred to as human-centered service design. And I think it's a good thing. There's the shift in title to draw attention to the people side of change.
All right, thank you, Malini. And Ron, you brought up this question. Give us a wider perspective.
I did. And up there, you can't see it, but there's a horse. Now I'm going to get on my high horse, which is up there. People, human centricity. I saw a lot of articles maybe about 6 months ago. All of a sudden, everyone's talking about human centricity, etc., etc. Now, if I go back in time to when I first started in this business, and I told you how long I've been in this business, but I'm not going to tell everyone else. Yeah, it has always been about people. There has been no other way of dealing with change. Somehow, over the years, it morphed into more of, you mentioned, Adrian, I think it was mentioned, people, process and technology, which is one of my mantras. What's happening at the moment and I think this is what people are trying to change. It's been twisted around. It's technology, process, and people. People get left out. They get left out at the end. And this is the problem, because at the end of the day, if your people don't change, you will not be successful. Your people are the ones that have got to use whatever you're implementing, whether it be, you can't use culture, but if it's culture, if it's new technology, if it's a merger and acquisition, whatever, your people are the core to that change. So they are the important ones. They always have been for me, and always should be. And for anyone that wants to get into change, always should be for you as well.
All right. Thank you, Ron. And I think there's something Mart wants to add to the discussion.
Just quickly, if you looked at what people-centered or centric is all about, it's usually about specific groups of people or teams. And human-centric, it's always about the individual. So as change managers, we probably want to focus on the human-centric part and prioritize that over the people-centric. Not that both are not important, but I think it sends a stronger message if you talk about the individual's needs, expectations.
Yeah. Thanks, Mart, for adding that. And I hope this is covering and look at this wonderful quote of Albert Einstein about the measure of intelligence. Probably not just the only way to measure intelligence, but let's see. Let's have a look at our visitors out there and see who's joining us. And we have Mercy from Nigeria. Hello, Mercy, and thanks for being on our show today. Hope you enjoy it, and we're looking forward to having questions from you guys coming in. So who else is there? There is Chin Yera joined from Nigeria. We have an African popularity viewing here today. That's great. Yeah, and there's Agnes. Chinia Agnes Ethiopia. I'm sorry for probably misspelling your name. If you could join us in the chat, if you could raise the questions, you just take the chance that these, for another 40 minutes, these guys are here, very motivated to answer your questions, and don't hesitate to bring those up. Okay, so Charlotte, can we go to the next question, please?
Thanks, Stephan. Our next question is from Sandra Levin in a place that I know very well, Utrecht. Sandra asks, how can I effectively facilitate and lead individuals and teams through the process of change whilst ensuring the success of organisational transitions?
All right, so that question, see, I read this dives a little bit deeply more into what we covered on the surface already. So let's start with Mart.
Just quickly on this one, lead by change, as in, be the lead on this, be the role model. That would be my short answer to this one.
Okay, a very short answer. Thanks, Mart. Let's hear from Shola then.
Another very short one. I would use the word collaborate. Collaborate means you're working alongside them. You might be the leader, and you're all working together to achieve joint benefits. So there should be clarity again on the vision of the change. And once your stakeholders can see benefits coming from the achievement of that vision, then indeed you can lead them in achieving that change. Collaboration.
Okay. Thanks, Shola. And Adrian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think here I would introduce a notion from the world of agility, and that is in the interactions that a change manager, you're doing as a change manager, you ensure that you keep on focusing on and keep the teams and keep everyone focused on what it's about and the value there is to be gained. In other words, keep an eye on the prize. And that then gives you sort of the ability to link, if you like, the day-to-day actions and facilitation and leadership with why everyone's here, because sometimes people lose sight of the wood for the trees.
Okay, thanks, Adrian. And Ron, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I think it's an issue of the size of the change. Of course, I mean, if you're talking about the success of organisational transitions, that implies that there's a lot going on in the organisation. Yeah? Now, if you're only an individual that is leading people through these changes, you're going to have your work cut out. Yeah? So, I would say that one way of actually helping you to actually make sure that the focus is kept on the overall transition is employ a network or create a network of change agents who will support you through the process. So if you have a change agent for each area, one of them where there's a transition happening, they will be your conduit into the business. So you can go to them and say, I need your help. They can come to you and give you feedback, etc., etc. So what you will have is you have you as the individual right in the middle. Okay, you're the ones that manage. You're the one that's managing it all, and then you have this wonderful network of change agents that are keeping you informed about what's going on, helping you with communication, engagement, etc., etc. So if you want to effectively facilitate and lead individuals, get yourself a change agent for that specific area that's going through the process.
Thanks, Ron. And Malini, your thoughts, please.
Well, a lot has been said, Sandra, and I agree with everything. I just wanted to add, I think if your organization is going through multiple transitions, then you need to acknowledge that, that there is such a thing as change fatigue, right? And if you're actually facilitating people through change when they're experiencing change fatigue, you need to be mindful of that and alter the pace of your change accordingly. So there'll be periods of time when you have to slow down and other periods of time when you can accelerate. And remember, you don't have to do this all by yourself. So if you develop the right network of people that can help you with the change, then it becomes a lot easier, right? So cultivate that change agent network, or what in business relationship management we refer to high influencers. Identify those people that can help you, help advocate for your cause. And that should sort of ease your burden a little bit. But I think having that empathy for the people that are impacted by multiple changes, constant change. We refer to the world being very VUCA now, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So having that compassion is going to be very helpful.
Thanks, Sandra. I think there's great advice coming in from the panelists. I just maybe want to add, you're not alone on this. There are trainings where you can actually becoming effective change management, change agents have been mentioned, BRM, organizational behavior management, OBM. You find all these on the APMG website and find a training provider if you want to sharpen your skills in these areas. Thank you. Charlotte, can we go to the next question? Do we have something live now?
And we have loads of live questions, Stephan. Our first one is from Jane in Liverpool in the UK. How important is joining a change management community to help me become a change manager?
How important is joining a change management community? I think we touched on this already, but maybe it makes sense to dive a little bit deeper into that community thinking. So I would like to start with Mart, followed by Ron, and then Shola.
I highly recommend indeed joining a change management community. There's a Change Management Institute, for example. You can become a member of those. I follow them on LinkedIn. It's always nice to be connected with like-minded people or people that have experience in this area. And there's lots of them that are willing to share great experiences, lots of ideas, make suggestions. So highly recommend you find that community and be amongst like-minded people that have the same passion as most likely you have as well as a change manager.
Okay, thanks, Mart. And Ron, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I think it's the number one thing you should do when you first start out is join a change management community. You need to start talking the same language. You need to start understanding, what it's all about, etc. There's only one problem I have with joining a change management community. And I'll quickly go through this. You have two professional bodies. You have the ACMP and you have the CMI. The ACMP have their standard for change management. The CMI have their CMBOK. They both go in a slightly different direction in terms of what they teach and what they promote regarding change management. So I think the first thing you should do is have a look at the ACMP's website, CMI's website, and say, oh, I like the way they do that, or I like the way they do that. That's the community I would like to join. Otherwise, you get confused. And this is one of the issues I have with change management. It's such a fragmented profession now, yeah? Because you can be a change manager for this, a change manager for that. You follow the ACMP, you follow the CMI, and even all the groups on LinkedIn. You have over 50 groups, about 500,000 members in the group. So that's another area, another way. But be careful which group you join, because you need to join the one that you think will help you most.
Okay, thanks, Ron, for this advice. And I think this is good to talk about communities, and we have a community here. We're getting live questions in. It's really great to see all the time. And I would love to come to the next question, please.
Thanks, Stephan. Our next live question is from Jacobus. Can you recommend any change management certifications that are good for executive roles?
Right, certifications that are good for executive roles. So let's start with Malini and then Adrian.
There are, of course, the change management certifications offered by APMG. But since you mentioned executive roles in particular, I'd also recommend the business relationship management professional certification. And my reason for that is, as a business relationship manager, what you're doing is evolving the culture of your organization, building partnerships across the organization, helping people to connect and commit to a shared purpose, right? Optimizing value for the enterprise. And as an executive, it's more likely that you might not be managing the change of a particular initiative per se, but you're responsible for leading people through all the changes that are happening in your organization. So I think the BRMP, or the Business Relationship Management Professional Certification, is something that you will find interesting and useful.
Okay, good. Thanks. Good advice. Thanks. And let's hear from Adrian.
I guess I'm going to mention MBAs, which is a pretty common route for people either moving towards executive or even at executive level. But a word of caution: very rarely does change management, or indeed any of the project, program, or portfolio management occur as a core. In the core part of MBAs. So you need to be careful to choose the options that you want, or indeed choose the MBA, preferably one that does have a core in those areas. Because it's incredibly weird to me how very many people can come out of an MBA knowing brilliantly how to produce a strategy, but having no clue at all about how to deliver one, which is weird. The other thing I absolutely have to mention, of course, is that Provec is a training organization I collaborate with here in the UK, and they and I have produced a business agility workshop for senior leaders. And if you're going to do business agility, you have to know how to transition towards it. So we definitely cover a change management towards agility in that workshop.
Okay, Well, thanks, Adrian, and let's hear from Ron.
I don't know of any change management courses for executives, and even if I did, I don't think I would suggest that execs should go through any of them. Like, if suggesting that an exec should go through ProSci or APMG, I think is probably a little bit silly. Yeah, I think execs need to be, and I've been trying to think of the word, and I can't think of it. I just totally, you know how you go brain dead. But they need to be engaged. So they need to be, come on, what's the word? I can't. Basically, they need to be helped through the process of change. Through, can't think of the word. I'm sorry. It's one of those situations where you just go brain dead. When I think of the word, I'll pop in. Yeah, but it's all about taking them through the process, telling them, you know, what needs to be done, what their role is, etc., etc. It's not training. It's whatever the word is. Can anyone think of it?
Well, maybe it's awareness. I don't know if that's what you mean, but but you see, I think executives. I mean, change is nothing you can delegate in an organization. Yeah. You have to be the owner of it. I mean, I think everybody will be clear about that. Yeah. So if you own the organization, you own the changes in a way. You might not be a deliverable. You might not be the ones who does all the nitty-gritty details, but you own it. And I think that would justify also a training, understanding what your change managers are doing. But anyway, you found your word.
I just remembered the word. They need to be mentored through change.
Mentored.
They don't need to be trained. Mentored. They don't need to be trained. They need to be mentored.
Okay, thanks. And Jacobus, you got a very diversified reply. So I hope you're fine with that. And let's just move on to the next live question.
Stephan, now our next live question is from Jessica Ann, watching on LinkedIn. Jessica asks, what are some of the panelists' favourite best resources to read or research for change management?
Okay, Jessica, and now we will ask the panelists about their best resources. They have to tell us the story. Nobody's raising a hand. Well, Mart is. Thanks for saving me, Mart. Otherwise, I would have picked somebody. Let's start with Mart, followed by Ron and then Malini.
With pleasure, Stephan. The first exposure I had, which made a real impression on me, was the book from John Paul Cotter, of course, Leading Change. So that one I highly recommend. Is if you never looked into this or read any literature about it, that would be a good place to start. So Leading Change by John P. Cotter.
Okay. All right, thank you. And the next recommendation we're going to hear from Ron.
I don't read much anymore, to be honest. I've been in the business for so long. I just read snippets of articles and stuff, and where I think something can fit into my training. But what I can say is the first ever change book I read, and it was a change book, was Dance of Change by Peter Senge. Yeah. That was the first ever book by Peter Senge, The Dance of Change, and kind of described change as like a dance between a man and a woman, and how they sort of led them through the different moves, etc., which is how change management should be. It should be a dance. It should be something that people do together. Interesting book.
Okay, thanks for that recommendation. And let's hear from Malini.
Well, Mart, guess what we have in common? Cotter's book was also the first one that I read about change management, and I love the fable involving the penguins. But there are two books that I can recommend, Jessica, which are not, they don't specifically say that they're about change management, but they're absolutely about some skills and knowledge that help you to become a more effective change manager. The first one is by Cialdini, and it's called Influence the Psychology of Persuasion. So that'll actually help you when you have to influence over people, influence people over whom you do not have any positional authority. Right? There are lots of great tactics in that book. And the second one is by Dan Pink, and it's called Drive: The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us. And I found that book immensely insightful to understand what is it that actually motivates people, right? And I think you'll be able to use that towards your change management practice as well.
Okay, thanks, Malini. And I'm sure, Jessica, all these book recommendations will be in the chat, so we will find them again. But let's hear from Shola next.
Great question, Jessica Han. The one resource I will absolutely recommend is the Effective Change Management Handbook from the Change Management Institute, of course. It's a collection of very relevant techniques, concepts, theories that you can now investigate further on the particular kind of change you're interested in. It is a fantastic resource, the Effective Change Manager's Handbook, available on Amazon. And it is the basis for the change management course by APMG as well.
Okay, thanks for that recommendation, Shola. And let's finally hear from Adrian.
At first I was struggling, apart from sort of Cotter, and then I had a sort of a little bit of a brain freeze, and of course I realised, yes, of course, Eric Abrahamson has been incredibly influential, as well as Cotter on me, and his book Change Without Pain, which also has the virtue of being very readable, very accessible. And he's got ideas like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. In other words, if you've got something good in an organization, build on it. Don't just throw it out because you're doing wholesale change. So there you go. There's another one.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Adrian. Thanks, panel. So, Jessica, I think you have your list where you can go to the bookstore, and all the times you would do that. Today, there are other options as well. But hopefully that answers your questions. Look at what full set of recommendation you received. But time's moving on, so are we. Charlotte, can we have the next questions, please?
You can, Stephan. Our next live question is from Andrew Miles. Andrew asks, how much experience in project program management is needed to be considered for a change manager role?
All right, Andrew. So that question implies to me that you have to have project program management first to become a change manager, which I'm not sure about. But let's hear from Ron first, and then from Adrian.
I'm going to be a bit naughty now, and I'm going to say you don't need any to be a change manager. You don't need any project or program management experience to be a change manager. They are two distinct roles. This is my view. And I think that project and program managers probably are too focused on things like deliverables, like timescales, etc. Although they say they think about people when they are project managing or program managing, I don't think they really do. They don't have time because the profession of project and program management has expanded widely over the last few years. I mean, you look at the PM Box 7, it's got 474 pages in it, okay? And with the fact that change managers need to focus on people, yeah, how can a project manager or program manager both focus on the people side of things and possibly the technical side of things? Yeah, especially if you have a large project or programmable work, they can't do the same job. Well, they could do the same job, but one has to give for the other. And the program manager would probably focus more on the technical delivery of whatever they're delivering, rather than the people, the change delivery.
Okay, thanks, Ron. And we hear next from Adrian then.
Yeah, I'm not entirely going to agree with Ron. I quite like that Adrian Dooley of the Praxis framework often talks about continuums of things. And I think it's also true in the case of change management and a change manager. There is no reason I can see why a career path, if you like, direction of travel towards being a change manager can't come from project program portfolio management a route. But I absolutely take what Ron was saying about maybe program managers, project managers, etc., being focused on outcomes and maybe being too busy. But certainly having peer-reviewed hundreds of project professionals, I certainly see that true professionals frequently talk a great deal about leading people and being very human-centric, to take from an individual point of view, to take Stephan's earlier point, as well as the more general people issues. So I think it's a potential route. But the other one, I shall leave it at that, I think, because others will have their say. Okay.
Okay, thanks. Well, then let's hear from Mart.
It never hurts to have a little bit of additional knowledge, experience in adjacent areas like project and program management. The one I would like to recommend, Andrew, if you want to expand your change management skills, experiences, add the business relationship management skills experience to your portfolio and become, like Malini said earlier, BRMP certified. Actually, go a step further and become a certified business relationship manager. In other words, that's all focused on leadership. So add leadership skills to it and use the body of knowledge of the Business Relationship Management Institute as a good complementary skill or a source of experience to be a change manager.
I appreciate all the replies, and hopefully does end with it, but it's about experience rather, how I read the question. And so, Ron, is there something you would like to add now that Adrian disagreed with you?
Just very quickly, I have to make an admission that I used to be a project manager. But I changed sides because I didn't like the rigidity.
Yeah, it's still one perspective can be, one doesn't need to be the prerequisite of the other, or it can be, or it should be. Maybe it's the best way of doing things. But anyway, let's move to the next question. That time's running out.
Thanks, Stephan. Our next live question is from Manoush, a LinkedIn Live viewer. I'm an international student. Is change management related to culture?
Oh, yeah. That is a good question, and something we haven't touched on yet. I start with Adrian and then Ron, and then Malini.
Yeah, I leapt on this one mainly because of what is meant by culture in an organizational context. And it's very often taken to just mean how people behave. And an organization culture is not, I mean, there are loads of models of organization culture. I like Edgar Schein's, and I've adapted that to my work on business agility. And what that essentially takes is that an organization's culture and the way in which is the totality of how it operates. So we come back to the people, process, technology thing again. And all of those things together combine to impact how people behave. So the behaviors, if you like, are the outputs. They're not the culture itself. So bringing that back to the question, change management is absolutely related to culture because you are changing the organization. Therefore, you're changing how the organization will operate. Therefore, you're going to change the organization's culture.
Okay, thanks. Thanks. Good points made, Adrian. And let's hear from Ron.
Yeah, I'm going to take this from a different perspective because the questions, I am an international student. So I'm assuming that the culture they're talking about is international culture, country culture. When I first moved to Thailand way back in 2011, after a couple of years, I got bored and I decided to do a survey on the different attributes or the different, can't think of the word again, of country culture in change management. So how different change management is practiced in different countries in Asia. Yeah. Okay. So I did that survey and it was actually very interesting in terms of the results because every country, 14 countries I did, yeah. In terms of the 14 countries, there were 14 attributes that looked at things like relationships, family, etc., etc. And it was amazing how each country was different than other countries, even though sometimes they were side by side. I repeated that research survey, whatever you want to call it, in 2019. I changed the attributes around a little bit, etc. But it came back with more or less exactly the same results. So each country has some cultural attribute that makes change practice different. So the way, let's give an example. Thailand has really not a clue about organizational change management. So their culture here is they don't know about it. Yeah. Whereas somewhere like Hong Kong or Singapore is very, very knowledgeable about organizational change management. Yeah. So they have a different way of practicing change. So yes, there are differences in each country. If I did that research globally, I think you'd find it in every sort of continent globally that there is different ways of practicing it.
Thanks, Ron. So different perspective, but a clear yes, like there was a yes from Adrian as well. So, but what's your thought, Malini?
What a great question. And in the interest of time, I'm actually going to refer you to a book by Hofstede, and it's called Cultures and Organizations. And it actually talks about, some of the tendencies that that people exhibit in, across different countries, right? Or when we talk about national culture. And some of those actually could inform change management. So, for example, one of the dimensions that Hofstede talks about is the attitude to uncertainty. And there are some cultures that, have a great degree of tolerance for uncertainty, and they tend to view it as an opportunity, whereas other cultures are more risk averse, and they will sort of, see uncertainty as a threat. So the way that you might practice change management in these two very different cultural contexts would be quite different, right? So I'll share the link to his book, Marnoush. Please have a look at it. And of course, you can connect with any of us on LinkedIn to continue the conversation on this topic further.
Okay, thanks, Malini. And I think Shola wants to add something.
Yes, great question. Change management is all about cultural changes. I will refer you again to the Effective Change Management book, which contains a full section on cultural change. It helps you to identify different levels of culture, how to go about making little tweaks to cultural components, because it is really difficult to change culture, as we all know. And there's quite a lot of information in that book, which again, I'm highly recommending. It is the Effective Change Management book from the Change Management Institute. Thank you.
Thank you, Shola. Thanks, panel. The only constant in change is the change itself. I think that's somebody else said that earlier. And I would like to thank everyone. We're running out of time, but I give you panelists some time to do a wrap up. So first of all, thanks all our producers for your excellent questions today. Apologies that we couldn't cover all of them. Also, not all of them who have already put in advance in Slido, but great job. Watch out your name in the credits if your question was selected. Panel, time for your closing remarks. Tell me, or tell the, not me, tell the audience, please, what else you would like to cover, but make it a short statement. Thank you very much. We start with Mart.
Thank you, Stephan. Indeed, great questions. And there were so many more that came in that we haven't had a chance to answer. Hopefully that we'll have more time for a future episode to address those. Peter Drucker once said, the greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence, it's to act with yesterday's logic. And I guess the point that he and others have made is that as a change manager, you always want to be forward-focused, focus on the future. Can we learn from the past? Absolutely. But it's that future focus that is so needed. So maybe a piece of advice as a change manager.
Yeah. Thanks, Mart. Thanks for that advice. Adrian, your closing remarks, please.
Yeah, I'm going to go slightly for the less comfortable. Change management can be incredibly rewarding, fantastic, fascinating, but it's hard. And as has been said by others, it can be very, very difficult. Sometimes you can get lots of opposition. Sometimes you have to butt a few heads and be prepared to do that, because you can't, as much as you try, always bring everybody with you.
No.
Mm-hmm. Good point, yeah. Ron, your closing remarks, please.
Yeah, just before I close I just want to say hello to Becky from the UK if she's watching, and I just saw Thomas from Botswana. Hello, Thomas. How are you? I have a slightly different view, as you've probably recognised, on this session and other sessions about how change management should be practiced. I have my own training on that view. I'm not certified. I never have been. All my change management experience comes from the coalface of change, and that's from dealing with people. Yeah, people. And I will always emphasize people. So for all of those who like creating dashboards and graphics and lovely slides for the executive committee, etc., think about the people first. Yeah, don't get me wrong. That, these graphics and stuff like that, it provides information which is very usable, but think about the people.
Think about the people. Yeah, thanks, Ron. I think everybody's appreciating that. Shola, your closing remarks, please.
Thank you. Each individual, including myself, will be motivated to change if the change is practical and the change will bring me better benefits than what I'm currently doing. So we should, as change managers, tap into resources that will help us provide the vision for the change, as said earlier on, the awareness of the current problems, and also the practicality of the change. That will lead us to be involved and adopt the change. Again, you can't go wrong, very seriously, with that book from the Change Management Institute. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, okay, thanks. So, well, that book was mentioned quite often today. So we will have a full list of all the book recommendations today in our chat. But let's hear from Malini, her closing remarks.
Thank you very much for including me in this conversation. I think change management is a really important capability for organizations, because it can make or break projects and programs and any sort of change efforts. And so I think that the skills that are required for good change management should not be limited just to people who aspire to change management roles as such, but these are skills that everybody needs to cultivate. So no matter what role you are in or what position you are in your organization, look up the resources that we mentioned, in particular the book that Shola referred to, the Change Management Handbook. And you will find that there are some real gems that you can take away and apply, at work and further your career. And all the very best to you.
All right. Thank you. And Charlotte Miller, my colleague who's been sorting all the questions, difficult today with all these live questions and sad that we couldn't cover all. Charlotte, what's your closing remark?
Yeah, change is one of my most favourite topics in the world. I've just added a quote from Winston Churchill. I'm copying Mart now. A quote from Mart to say that to improve is to change, to be perfect is to change often. It's a great quote, and I would like to end today's show by saying thank you to our panelists, thank you to our viewers, and just to let our viewers know that every single book that's been mentioned is in the chat. It's in the chat of the LinkedIn broadcast, so you can go back and have a look at the book recommendations from all our fantastic panelists today. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. And well done, everyone. Special thank you to my fellow colleagues from APMG, like Nigel and Shanice, who've been in the background but made this live event possible. So you have all the book recommendations, people. Over on our website, you can search for answers to more than 2,000 questions in the meantime. It's a free resource connecting you with experts from around the world. Please check it out. You can also listen to the audio versions of the shows on our preferred podcast platforms, whatever that might be. Coming up on Friday, the 17th November at 2 p.m. UK time, we discuss how to become an agile leader. Next Monday, the 6th November, that's the, not the 6th November, but the next Monday, we will join you at 8 a.m. GMT for a lively discussion on how to become a business analyst. Stay with us, sign up. We will send you a personal summary of what's coming up and how you too can join us here on the panel and level up your career with APMG. Thanks, everyone. See you on the next show.